So you're still subconsciously tracking calories, but does it actually matter? Today we're going to dive in. I'm not really British, but I do just enjoy a good accent. So we're going to talk about tracking them in your head. So it does matter for hypothalamic amenorrhea recovery for you to not be, subconsciously calculating all the food that's coming in. And I know it feels weird, and there's not like a lot you can always do about it. It can be very subconscious. It can feel quite out of your control. But you do need to practice not doing it, and here's why. I'm Danny, a fertility expert specializing in hypothalamic amenorrhea, missing periods, and we help women get them back. I'm the founder of the HA Society, and it's something that you should consider joining. The more you focus on how much food is coming in, the more likely it is that you have a subconscious agenda, whether it's making sure you're eating enough or making sure you're eating just enough but not too much that you don't feel like you're eating so much in that you're going to, perhaps gain an exponential amount of weight. At its core, your need to track calories in general has been a control thing, right? So by continuing to do it, you're holding on to some kind of control. And control appears to be the enemy of period recovery. This is something we found over the years. So when we started coaching like 6 years ago or something like that, I don't think this was really even on our radar. We were, originally coaching women into, here are the fundamentals, here's how to eat enough, all that good stuff. The truth, these are still the foundations of coaching and of recovery, but we also were realizing that people were stalling out, women were getting stuck, and the connection that we're making over this time is that we're playing a game called How Low Can I Go? It's something we call it at this HA Society, where if you want to recover, but you have a number in your mind or an amount of food in your mind that is the maximum you want to eat in order to recover, then you'll stick to that, and it's still control and it's still restriction, just packaged differently. In other words, you have just lifted the ceiling on how much you're allowed to eat, but really nothing has changed about your mindset and your approach to food and nutrition. So your brain knows, it's not silly, you can't trick it. It knows what you're doing, that though you've allowed several more calories, that you still have rules. And so what do you think I'm going to turn our reproduction on just because you're being slightly less restrictive? Or not even that, you're being just as restrictive, but you've just upped the calories a little bit. So I did this, and this is how we know that this is a pattern, right? Everyone on our coaching team has done all of these behaviors, and I think that's what makes it much easier to identify in other people. I was a macro tracker, and I'm pretty sure that before I went to recovery, my macros were at 7,500 calories. That number sticks in my mind. And the idea that 2,000 calories was a normal amount of calories was pretty wild. Now I think 2,000 is a low amount of calories. But at the time, I thought that was a really high amount of calories. So that's where I was. And I was like, okay, well, I will up my calories to 2,000. Nothing happened. I will up my macros to 2,200. And nothing happened. And I remember truly realizing in myself, wow, okay, it's going to have to be more than that. Now, at the time, I thought that it was just because that's straight up not enough food for me, which was accurate. But I don't think I appreciated at the time that, recovery truly happened for me when I said, okay, I just need to stop the tracking altogether, and I just need to eat like a normal person, right? So here's what happens. Not only do you increase your calories a little, but you increase them in safe foods that make you feel comfortable. So basically you take what you're already eating and you increase it. And if you're already eating egg whites and rice cakes and turkey and chicken breasts and shrimp and whatever the heck else is really not all that calorically dense, and you just increase it, not a lot has changed. You think a lot has changed because there was a time not that long ago where absolutely not would you have done any of those things. Yes, tracking calories absolutely matters because you're still probably not eating enough if you're doing that behavior, and you're trying to control your food and your brain knows, and so restriction is still in place. What this means too, if you're cluing in, is it's not actually just about how many calories you're eating, it's 100% about your relationship with food. I'm going to do another video in the future about like why do some periods go missing and others don't, when you feel like there are people who don't eat as much as you, but like why is their period still around? There are a few factors, but one of them is that they're not eating how they're eating from an intentional place of restriction. You have to understand that as long as you're trying to control things, recovery is going to be really hard for you. Now, there are some of you who are going to say, okay, I'm actually not restricting, but I'm still counting. Because it's a habit. You've done it for so long. Yes. Okay. Here's what you need to do. You need to interrupt the thought. This is how you meditate. You sit quietly. You try to think about nothing. You look at the back of your eyelids, and when a thought comes in, you push it out. You let it pass. You need to take more responsibility for this process. And when you catch yourself tracking, you need to stop. Okay? What's happening is a lot of people are having the internal tracking happen, and they're letting themselves do it, and then they're wondering if it's a problem, and if they're identifying it's a problem, and they're like, oh, what do I, should I do something about this? Can I do something about this? I feel helpless to do something about this. You're not helpless to do something about it. You absolutely can. You can interrupt the thought and think about something else. And if you need to like sing a weird little song just to stop the calorie tracking while you're making food, do it. The calorie tracking in your head is a compulsion, and to break compulsions is hard, and it is actively not doing the behavior, even though your brain is screaming at you to do the behavior. We work with a lot of women who have compulsions from like truly obsessive compulsive disordered compulsions through to like, I just have this little tick that I feel like I can't break. And we break it, and we always break it, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. That is the nature of compulsions. You think you are less capable of breaking those compulsions than you really are. Now, are there people on the severe end of the spectrum? Yes. But the majority of you listening have the control over yourself to break the control. Like, don't come at me telling me you don't know how to control things. How do you rechannel that incredible ability you have to have self-control and to have self-accountability and use it into this process? Isn't it funny how we are actually really good at being accountable to ourselves about certain things, but not about other things? What does that mean? What does it mean about me that I can have the accountability to run 5 miles a day, but I don't have the accountability to just like disrupt my brain from adding up all of the calories in my food, just to, subconsciously or consciously make sure that I'm not eating too much. So I'm hoping that this is landing. I'm hoping that this is helpful. I really want you to know that you cannot continue to maintain high levels of control while going through the hypothalamic amenorrhea process. This is something that is an integral part of coaching. If anyone is wondering like, well, what is coaching really? Like, yeah, it's this stuff. It's helping people identify when their controlling behaviors are showing up in their recovery process and they're not able to identify it. Or they have a story in their head that they cannot change this about themselves. And we're there to let them know, yes, you absolutely can. Here's how you're going to do it. And we see that you're perfectly capable of doing it. We absolutely have clients with more intensive compulsions that we have to go slower with. Yes. But at the end of the day, they are still being held accountable all the time to actually changing those behaviors. We're not going to work around your obsessive compulsions around food. We're not going to work around them. We can't. It doesn't work that way. This goes the same with exercise. If you're still having a compulsion to exercise, that tells me you have the ability to stay accountable to exercise. You have the ability to stay accountable to not exercising. That's not the problem. The problem is that you're afraid of what happens if you don't exercise. And so then that's what we need to tackle. We need to tackle this like limiting belief that you have that exercise is going to save you. I assure you it is holding you back. Because if exercise, when you ask yourself, or when I ask you, well, what is exercise bringing you? And the answer is, take a second. What is exercise bringing you? To think about it. It's probably bringing you, I just still feel healthier, right? Or I just still feel more like I've gotten something done. Or I feel more productive. These are all things I felt, so I know you feel them too. And we hear them all the time from clients, right? It's making you feel like nothing's changed. And that's nice, because you don't really want anything to change, and I get it. But you actually do, because you want to heal. And you value health. You value fitness. I know this about you. That's what's so challenging about all of this too, is like, you valued those things and you found out that you did it too much and now you're less healthy, and you're confused and in conflict with your values because you've been doing this for health, but turns out you're not healthy. So if you're not actually healthy and the answer for you is to sit back and rest and ingest more calories, and that's hard for you, then we're learning that it's not really all that much about health. It's a little bit, but your cholesterol's high, your liver enzymes are elevated, your iron sucks, all your minerals are tanked, your bone density is on its way to rubbish town, if not already. There's a lot of things happening that clearly you're not 100% healthy. So why is it so hard to change the behavior? Could it be that it has nothing to do with health and has everything to do about maintaining and controlling your weight? Because if you don't maintain and control your weight, you might gain weight and then you'll become less valuable to the world. Could be. Things to think about. This was kind of like a freestyle episode you guys know all my episodes are. But I want to know how this lands for you. Is this answering the question for you? Is this helping you move forward? Does this make sense? These are the conversations that we have in the society and that we have with our clients that I'm trying to have with you through the camera. I'm hoping that it helps. If you're listening and you feel like maybe I do want some more help, our Restore Your Fertility group program is actually opening, starts the week of June 1st. You can sign up now, and me and you and I can get on a call and talk about your case together and determine if you're a good fit for the program. And then if it makes sense for you, that might be a really good program for you, and to join other people who are, watching this channel or listening to our podcast. You can join them in a recovery program that takes an average of 10 weeks for people to recover. So we can kind of break these compulsions. We can tackle these calorie tracking habits over 10 weeks and just call it good. Also, if this episode was helpful for you, but you have more questions or topic requests, post them below. My entire team and I get together really regularly and we post podcast style shows. You'll see them also in the feed, and we would love to answer your question or do an episode on your topic. So let us know what you guys need, and I'll see you next week.